Welcome to this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. Hello, I'm Ian, and I'm joined by our Marketing Guides panel. Today we have Ken, Jen, Paul with us. Almost everyone has a love-hate relationship with email, right, everyone?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It can be a relentless taskmaster, interrupting our days with endless requests and endless spam. But I think we would all agree that email isn't all bad. And it turns out that email marketing is one of the most underutilized powerhouses in a business marketing arsenal. In this podcast, we'll talk about why and how you should leverage email marketing in your small business this year and provide tips for getting the most out of your email marketing efforts. So let's get started. All right, I'm going to start with you, Jen. Let's start by exploring this topic with why email marketing shouldn't be ignored.
Why it shouldn't be ignored. It's funny because how many years in a row have we read articles where it was like the death of email, no one's going to use email anymore, right? And by far, it's been a really good workhorse since it, I was going to say since it started, but I don't mean that. I mean, since, marketing got involved and you started receiving either newsletters or offers, or you could sign up to keep in touch with the brand. It's really been a real workhorse. Now, the thing is with email, as much as it might not be, the shiny new object and whatnot, the thing is virtually everybody has an email inbox. If you compare that to how many people are on various social media sites, then things get really, really fragmented, right? So with email, you've got a large captured audience, if you will, and virtually everybody's going to be on email. Virtually everybody knows how to work email right now, right? And the love-hate relationship you talked about, it is the kind of thing that is true, but not as passionate love-hate as you get over on social media, right? I'm never going on that channel. I love this channel, that kind of thing. So as much as email has been, maybe poo-pooed for not being super inventive and whatnot, it's a fabulous workhorse. It does work, as we'll explore in this episode. And it's important and applicable, whether you are a small local business, a big, huge enterprise, whether you're selling B2B, B2C, it works for virtually every product, every service.
Yeah, there are stunning email marketing statistics out there that every business really should know. Like email reaches 10 times more people, reaches them and connects with them than on social media. And the reason for that is social media is like a river. It's flowing by you. So much stuff is going by. There's no guarantee you're going to get anything. If you're setting up your email program right and you're getting your emails delivered, that's going into somebody's inbox. So that's huge. It's also way more effective at conversions than Facebook, and a lot of people, I think in this day and age, still think that while Facebook may have soured a little bit in some people's minds, I still think there's this idea that social media is this silver bullet, and it's really good at certain things, but when you get toward the bottom of the funnel where you're trying to get people to buy and take that action, for most businesses it's not great. If you're a lifestyle business, it could be the ideal thing, social media could, but if you're not a lifestyle kind of business, email is going to be a way better bet.
Yeah, great points. Paul, next question's for you. We find ourselves in unusual times, as we all feel, and these unusual times have had an impact on how we all do business. Has the current world circumstances affected the use of email marketing, and if so, how? And is it more important or less important?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. Yes, it has definitely affected how we do business. I don't think it has made email marketing more important. I think it has made a lot of local businesses more aware of the importance of it, because we've lived in a digital world for a long time, but now with more and more things being done remotely, virtual meetings, virtual everything, email has, I guess from that perspective, you could say it's become more important, but I think it's more of an awareness thing, is that small business is starting to realize that you have to build your list. And it's been said for a long time that it's all about the list. And a lot of small businesses have never done that. And so email marketing wasn't even on their radar because they had no list to send emails to. And now they're becoming aware of how important that is, especially in the world we live in. So it's definitely a powerful channel. And like Ken said, there's a lot of statistics that show how effective it can be. And social media, I have never clicked on an ad in social media. And if it weren't for what we do, I wouldn't even have a Facebook account. So it's, I don't spend a lot of time on social media, and I find it hard to believe that I'm the only person on planet Earth that doesn't spend a lot of time on social media, other than YouTube, if you consider YouTube social media. But even YouTube, I skip the ads. I don't click on an ad. So yeah, email marketing I think is a lot more effective, especially if the business has a relationship with the customer. And that's the other part of it, is that the relationship between the business and the customer, that has to be there no matter what channel you're using.
Yeah. I think Paul's going to start his own podcast called "All Marketers Are Hermits."
Our faceless hermits.
I'm gonna get a Yosemite Sam caricature.
There we go. We go. Oh, it's all good. And I think what's interesting too about what you said there, Paul, is that even though you're in marketing, your own habits are very different than those of the people that you're serving, and the people you're serving's customers, because that's ultimately what matters, right? So you might be creating Facebook ads and YouTube ads because that's where your clients' customers are, and that's how you can actually create impact with them. But for you personally, the people trying to target you, they need to find unique ways other than those.
Yeah, and like what Jen said about everyone having an inbox, we actually have a couple clients that find it a challenge to use email, believe it or not. And so yes, I would say that 99.9% of people out there do have an inbox, but you still find that rare person that doesn't use email. I don't know how you do that in the world we live in, but apparently it happens.
Yeah. Well, and in some ways, the new inbox is a combination of your email inbox and your text messaging inbox, right? Or your Facebook Messenger inbox, or your omni-channel inbox. But Paul, in your answer there, you talked about how the list is really important, and that's a great segue into the question I had for Ken. You have to have a list of contacts with email addresses to send to. How can a small business start building out their list? What kind of tips or advice do you have for businesses that need to either grow their current list, which they always should be, or start a list if they don't even have one yet?
Yeah. Well, chances are they do have one. They may just not have it pulled together. They don't have it in like MailChimp or an email marketing service or anything like that. But, dig through your transactional emails, dig through your inbox. You're going to have customer emails. You're going to have contact forms that people have submitted probably in your website that you can go get. In your accounting system, like if you're using QuickBooks and you send an invoice by email, guess what? You have an email address. You just don't have it organized in a way that you can use it for email marketing purposes. So I would definitely start there. That's low-hanging fruit. It's definitely a lot of work. You absolutely need to go through and clean the list and make sure that it's up to date, because email addresses get out of date very, very, very quickly. I think the statistic is every 6 months, a large percentage of email addresses go bad. And the reason for that is, especially when people change jobs, so when you change jobs, you're going to get a different email address. So if you signed up for something with that business email and you change jobs, guess what? That email address no longer works, and it may not work at all. I mean, the company may shut it down completely or they may reroute it to somebody else. But or people change internet service providers or cell phone carriers. All of those are opportunities for email addresses to go bad on you. So step one is collect what you got, dig through every piece of information you have. You're going to have more than you think. But then you need to start growing your list. So how do you do that? And this is a tough question because it's going to vary really widely based on the nature of the business. But if you're, one of the things that we like to do is now, because of the time of COVID, people are booking appointments more online now than they ever have. So if you have an online booking system, guess what? You're automatically, at least you should be, automatically capturing email addresses and probably cell phone numbers, which is great, so that you can remind people of the appointments. So put that feature on your website. For a lot of businesses, especially service area businesses like painters or roofers, that's a great way to get an email address. If you deal in information, you're a technology company, you sell B2B software, you can have a case study or a white paper or an ebook or a checklist or something like that to get people to give you an email address in exchange for valuable information. It's important to realize, I think I heard a statistic not too long ago that the average email address is worth $25 in value. So you need to think about, if you're going to ask somebody for an email address, you've got to give them what they're going to perceive as $20, $25 worth of value back. That's how, if you're not doing that, then you're going to be running into all kinds of problems. One of the cooler ways, and I think the better ways to do it right now, is to have a quiz. People love quizzes. It gives them an opportunity to learn something about themselves. It also gives the business an opportunity to learn something about, the person taking the quiz, and probably even segmenting them into, if you design your quiz right, into the type of product or service that they might be the best candidate for your business. Or even having like free courses if that's relevant to what your customer is going to perceive as real value. But again, you've got to think about an email, people just don't cough up email addresses. Why is that? Well, we get inundated with spam. And I'm going to call this company out. I don't know who the hell it is, but it's listlions.com. I have unsubscribed. I can't tell you how many thousands of times. Literally, it's got to be in the thousands at this point.
Wow.
And I still get emails from them. And what they do is they come up with a different name, they send it. There's another guy, Eric Jones, that sends us an inordinate amount, and our clients. That is bad behavior, and those are bad actors, and those people give email a bad name. And we all feel that pain. I experience it every single day, multiple times a day. I get it. But don't let that bias keep you from using email marketing. When you look at the return on investment for email marketing, it's 4,400%. 4,400%. What channel achieves that? I don't know of any other channel that comes in even close to that. So don't let your own personal biases keep you from doing email marketing, but do email marketing in a way that it's constantly adding value. And the other thing is, it's not a one and done. You've got to use email to stay top of mind. And I just used the example of, this company like List Lions, or this Eric Jones with Talk with Triggers or something like that. I can't even remember. I should know it by heart by now because of the emails. But
you've blocked it out.
I have blocked it out. But
I just mark them as spam.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Every single one of them. I think I've heard Donald Miller talk a lot about this, where, you just need to send an email every week. As long as you're adding value, people aren't going to subscribe. Does that mean they're going to read every single email you send? No way. Not even close.
And you mean unsubscribe, right?
Unsubscribe.
Yeah, unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're going to unsubscribe. They're not going to read the emails. They may just delete them. But if they still feel like you're going to be adding value,
Yeah.
every now and then the subject line that you have and the topic that you write about is going to catch somebody's attention, and they're going to say, yeah, that's the problem I've been trying to solve. And they're going to open up that email, and they're going to get value from you. It may not be the point where they're ready to buy from you yet, but they're not going to unsubscribe from your list just because you send them a new email every week, as long as you're adding value. So getting in a regular habit of sending weekly, biweekly, monthly emails, and the more frequently you send emails, really, at least a weekly basis, I think, is kind of that sweet spot, because every time you send an email, you're keeping your list clean and up to date. Any credible email marketing system is going to throw away the bad emails and stop sending to those, and it's going to keep your list clean and up to date. People can unsubscribe. Some people may mark it as spam. Business email is not spam. If I send a business email to another business, that's not spam. That's not a violation of the CAN-SPAM law. It can be annoying as hell. So make sure you have a good reason to send that email, and make sure that the recipient is going to get value out of it.
Yeah. That response was chock full of good tips for people, Ken. Just a couple of things I would add to it. I was just thinking, as you were talking about list building, or even in the corporate world, we used to call it list hygiene, because you have to keep your list clean and beautifully smelling, right? So
yeah.
One of the for brick and mortar businesses, I was thinking, we've all appreciated this or been a part of it, whether it's over the phone or at the time of checkout at a dental office, whatever it is. If the people are real well trained, the staff, they will ask you to confirm your email address and your mobile number. And it's because they want to make sure that they're keeping their list clean. The other one that came to mind as well is in the trades. A lot of our trades that we support, we have a pre-qualifying process for quoting. And so we have online quote forms, which in some of their cases, they're almost like a quiz, because you're building your quote with a lot of kind of visual elements. But even in there, of course, you're asking them for their email address. And so that's helpful for the business, because it's a way to communicate and keep in touch with you. So
yeah. Well, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Brick and mortar businesses, they have their entire physical space to remind people to either join a text list or join an email marketing list. Use that space. You're paying for that space. You're paying a lot of money for that space. Use it. Remind people. Put flyers on your doors. Have table tents on your restaurant tables. Have a little stand by the checkout that asks people and gives them a reason to sign up for your email. And again, it's all about value. You got to think. You got to give somebody $25 worth of value before they're going to cough up an email address or probably a cell phone number for text marketing.
And those examples you just brought up, Ken, are more important than ever for these types of businesses, because people have, during COVID, they've transitioned to online purchasing, to online ordering of food, and without email or mobile numbers to text to, those businesses are really hamstrung. But if they can continue to make offers through these digital channels, it's really helpful. And of course, you can measure all that as well.
And then you've got to address packaging. If you're going to have a carryout box for your food delivery, make sure you've got a way for somebody to subscribe to your email list or your text marketing list on your box, on your packaging. It's just critical. Use every tool you've got.
We've talked a lot about kind of the foundational reasons and elements, reasons for using email marketing, some of the key elements we need to be to consider when thinking about email marketing. I think this brings up a really important aspect of email marketing that we should talk about, of how leveraging email marketing or email communication throughout the buyer's journey, or as we would call in the duct tape marketing world, the marketing hourglass, because we include some added elements after the sale, how that can be really effective. So Jen, I wanted to ask you to start us off on this. Talk a bit about how email communication can be leveraged to keep your business top of mind and strengthen relationships with existing customers.
Absolutely. There was something that I wanted to. There's an analogy that I heard. I heard this a few years ago, and I think it still holds true today. Is like when someone hands over their email address to a business, it's almost like they're inviting that company or that expert into your living room, right? Because you're working in your email inbox every day, and you need to give the permission for someone to come in. And I think, Ken, that's what's so annoying when we get bombarded by spam. It's just like, I didn't even invite you into this place, you can't be here.
Right.
And so it's a privilege, and I think that's one way we have to really look at our list. Is it's we've won the right, or we've won the privilege, let me say, to be communicating with these people. So I mean, it's an important part of the trust process, right? As you work along the line to either keep that buyer being a repeat buyer or get them to start buying from you. So how can email be leveraged to keep your business top of mind? So one of the things that Ken said was like about the weekly emails. So of course you're coming into somebody's inbox, they're seeing either your name, your company's name. And I just want to go deeper on something that Ken mentioned about, like, not necessarily worrying about are people opening your emails. Now that's going to fly in the face of a lot of analytics that we have in marketing about who opened, who clicked, what happened, blah, blah, blah. But which is important. However, don't be upset if you're finding part of your list not opening your email. And again, I want to share a story that I heard some time ago, and it was of this company, and they said, okay, I want to show you our inbox and what we subscribe to with Amazon. And he opened up his inbox, and he's just like, if you were to purely look at me as an Amazon customer on their email list, I would look like I am ignoring your emails all the time. I don't open one of these things that I get from them at all. I just don't. However, and he flipped around, he had some numbers, kind of smudged out, so he couldn't see how much he was buying from them. But he's like, our business buys, a certain amount of office supplies or whatever it is from Amazon every single week. And so, in reality, we are this very good customer. We're just not going to read their email marketing that they send to us. And so that was that story stuck with me, because it reminded me that, even though some of the folks on your list are never going to open your emails for whatever reason, right? You got to look on the flip side. Are they constantly buying from you? And that goes back to, people do have favorite channels and how they like to consume or interact with you. That's why one reason social media, we encourage people to be, everywhere that it makes sense, because someone's favorite channel is another person's non-favorite channel and whatnot. So it's, you want to say something, Ken? Jump on in.
Well, no, that just made me think of, email open rates are not really a very good statistic to measure. And I just think of, some of my behavior is I go to a website from somebody that I know and trust, that I get a regular email from. I don't open up the email, but the subject line reminds me, oh yeah, I need to go do this. And it probably results in some deeper relationship that I have with that business. Doesn't mean I clicked the email, but the email did its job. Its subject line piqued my interest and got me to take action. So even though I didn't open the email, so don't rely on email open rates. Plus, a lot of those open rates can be false positives too. They aren't really accurate measures.
No, good point. Good point. There's something that I do want to tell a little story about how email can help you be very, I guess, help with the operations of your business. Some of us think that email marketing is all about promoting, oh, we got this service or this product, or we're so great at this, or we won that kind of thing. But email marketing, as much as it's a workhorse, it can be really a workhorse for your company. And one example I wanted to share is at the beginning of the pandemic, we still have them, but they are a law firm. And of course they couldn't see, like many of us couldn't see people in their offices. So they had to take everything online. And, that was a rough thing for all of us to get used to very, very quickly, or many businesses. But anyways, one of the things that when we were meeting with them, they were saying, we're getting inundated by all these phone calls and emails about, are we open? What do we do? This, that, whatever. And so one of the things that we did is we turned their monthly newsletter into a weekly newsletter. But it was more about like, okay, if your case is at this stage, this is what you do. Here's the email. Here's how, we're still open. And it became more of a tip sheet about like, okay, you're with us, you've got a case happening. Here's what we're doing next, or here's where we're going, like, here's how you follow these procedures if this is where you're at. So it became a lot less about like, here's some news about the law that we focus on, or here's the award we won. It became very much like, okay, client, here's what you need to do next. Okay, here you are. We're here for you. Here's how you need to communicate with us. And it really became basically a teaching document for a good few months. And what that really did is it started to help the lawyers tone down on the emails and the phone calls about panic clients going, what do I do next? And then it was able to give the clients a peace of mind of like, okay, they're still open, things are happening, they've got it under control. Here's what I do next.
Yeah.
And so that's one way. I mean, email can really help with your business operations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was doing a year in review for one of my dentists, and I was looking at their email stats, like what were the most popular opened and clicked emails of the year. And I actually couldn't believe it. It was 2 emails related to COVID reopenings and the procedures that people had to do, and the new procedures the dentist was taking in order to be a more safe place for their patients to be. So that was kind of a little bit eye-opening. I didn't foresee that. Yeah. And then just another little piece of anecdotal evidence, and again, this is related to another dentist. We find every single month we send out, we do a monthly e-newsletter for this particular client. Every single month, because we're connected to their forms and what's happening, phone calls and that kind of stuff, we always see a spike in appointments right after we send out an email. And I think it's just, it supports what you guys have all been saying, is that it's about being top of mind. People may not be thinking about their dental health, throughout the whole month, but then when they get that email and they're like, oh, I love that guy, and he just sent me an email, and yeah, I'm overdue, and my teeth feel a little like they've got fuzzy carpets on them. I need to go. So at least that's me reading into it, but it does support how well email marketing can work in some cases.
Well, and I think it's important to realize, a lot of people think email marketing is just, blasting out information, and people often use the term email blasts. But email plays a very transactional role, Jen, as you talked about. And Ian, a dentist is a perfect example. Send an email reminder, hey, you've got an appointment coming up tomorrow, or a week before. Does this still work for you? Or a text message, whichever. But it dramatically improves the show up rates. And the show up rates, if you go to the trouble of booking time and not taking another patient because you're expecting somebody to show up and they don't show up, you lose money. So, so using email as a transactional system to also remind people to show up and keep their appointments is a really important use of email marketing, and it is email marketing.
Yep. And I couldn't agree more, Ken. In fact, I think it's even more important these days because, especially with the spike in COVID right now, if people are starting to feel ill, like whatever it is, it might not be COVID, but they can't go to the dentist, right? And because of the way the reminders are working through email and text, it is opening up slots for the dentist or the hygienist should somebody start to feel a little squidgy. So it's super powerful that way.
And if you have a list, you can send that out and say, hey, we've got an opening all of a sudden. Anybody can do this. So
anybody want a root canal?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no. I was thinking about it. I think,
No, not today.
I wanted to catch this movie, so why not?
They have,
Awesome.
I won't even go into that. So Jen, you talked about strengthening relationships with existing clients. Paul, can you share a bit how email can be used for nurturing prospects? So people that the business doesn't currently have as a client, but they're a prospective client.
Yeah, and this is one place where automation can really help you. And that's, I know this episode isn't about automation, but it is part of it. And if someone signs up for a newsletter, completes a survey, takes a quiz, and that can trigger an automation, you can have a welcome email. You can a nurture sequence. Here's what to expect. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how often we're going to send emails out. And one thing, don't abuse it. I think Ken alluded to this. He said every couple of weeks or once a month. Over the holidays, I was getting like 2-3 emails a day from the same company for the same thing. And the only thing they accomplished is getting me to unsubscribe.
Mm.
So don't abuse it, but you can have an informational emails, you can have your welcome emails, but this is where automation can really help, because I think a lot of companies, they think it's going to be this time consuming, labor intensive. They're going to have to pay someone in their office to send out these emails. And no, set up your nurture sequence, whether it's reminder emails, instructional emails, informational emails, and automate that. And then you have that set up on a schedule. It goes out. You don't have to have someone in your office doing these things, and it can be very effective.
Yeah, it's almost like you're preemptively overcoming buyer's remorse. They haven't purchased from you yet, because you're still trying to nurture the relationship. But one of the things we're doing in our business is building out a follow-up campaign for when we have a discovery call with clients, because our sales process tends to be a little bit longer than more transactional type businesses. And so we want to reinforce, here's the things that we talk about with everyone, because there are core competencies. So we just want to reinforce those, throughout the next 2 weeks, so that people keep us top of mind when they're talking to the next agency, because usually people have a comparable set of agencies they're talking to when coming to a decision. We're reminding them of, hey, this is how we're different in the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think Paul kind of hit on it a little bit too. The informational emails and Ian, you've talked about it a little bit too. I mean, it's like, what do you send an email giving people instructions. Here's what you're going to have to do to follow our COVID protocol. If you're a dentist, for example, or if you're a house painter, and 2 days before you're scheduled to go show up and do the work, and it's an interior paint job, for example, tell them, hey, remember, move everything away from the walls in these rooms, or move everything out of these rooms if you can, so that we can get in there. That's good for the business to do, because that means that they don't have to spend time moving stuff and costing them extra labor. And that could either result in them charging more money to the client, but that may not make the client happy either, because they are like, oh, well, I had to pay an extra $50 or something like that. So just communicate, and use your email as a tool. And again, it's kind of an onboarding in this case. Use email to help onboard and build that customer success from the get-go.
Yep. Paul talked about nurturing prospective customers. Jen talked about nurturing relationships with existing customers. Ken, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you can leverage email marketing for powerfully generating referrals or requesting online reviews after somebody's purchased from you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the challenging things for a lot of people is to get into the habit of asking somebody to go write a review. A lot of us just aren't comfortable doing that. We would hope that if people had a great experience, that they would just go write reviews. Statistic after statistic after statistic shows people are willing to write the reviews, but you need to remind them and you need to ask them. Most people as humans, I think we're kind of hardwired to skew toward writing negative reviews because we want to protect other people from a really bad experience. Um, that's kind of doing a disservice to all of the great businesses that we're really satisfied with. And so if the business has a regular system in place to ask somebody to go write a review and make it super easy for both the business to implement so that it happens and it's just a process that just goes, and then make it super easy for the person that you're sending the request to fulfill, that review request is really important. Now, some people may not be comfortable writing a review. We've got customers that deal with really expensive high-end solutions. It's hard to get a lot of those people to go write reviews. In certain medical practices, it's hard to get people to go write reviews because they don't want to, and it may even be some HIPAA related issues there that, might constrain people wanting to ask for reviews. So you need to understand what's allowed for sure. Up until recently, financial advisors in the United States could not ask somebody to go write a Google review or any kind of a review. They can now. So that's really important. That's a major change. So you got to get into the habit of it. You got to make it a process. And email is one of your most effective tools. Text message marketing is also a really effective way to ask for reviews. Now, for referrals, I think the gold is in database reactivation or customer reactivation. If you have a list, it is so much cheaper to get somebody who's already purchased from you to come back and purchase from you again. Whether that's getting people to, as a dentist, getting them to come in on a regular monthly 6-month cycle when they're supposed to come in for their 6-month checkup, and making sure they do that every 6 months instead of stretching it out to where it's every 9 months. And guess what? Over a period of time, you're losing some revenue there. And you're also, maybe you're making it up because maybe they have more cavities or more dental work, but still you want to, I think every business would like to try to get things as regular and normalized as possible, where you have a steady stream of income coming in. But get customers to come back and spend more money and give them a reason to do so. And you've got to give them an offer. You've got to give them a reason to come in and do that. You've got to give them something of value to make that happen. If they don't have the need to purchase, if you're a roofer, they're not going to buy a roof from you every year. Hopefully they don't need to buy a roof from you, but maybe once every 20 or 30 years, unless there's storm damage or something like that. But they've got neighbors, they've got friends. So put a referral program in place that gives them a little bit of an incentive to refer you out, and share your information and say, hey, if you ever need a roofer, here's the company we should recommend you work with. You just need to develop these processes. The bottom of the hourglass, the review and refer, that's where there's so much gold for a business that's unmined too frequently. And so email and SMS marketing are the two best ways, I think, to get the word out, as well as developing referral partner networks.
Yeah. You were talking a little bit about how reviews are really important, but people don't leave them. So just the last stats I saw, it was saying that the average consumer trusts online reviews 90% plus. And then there's varying statistics related to different industries, ranging from usually about 70% of people read reviews before making a purchase, right up to 93% I've seen as well. But the disparity is that only 6% of people leave reviews if it's unsolicited. So there's this huge gap where businesses aren't getting the benefit of turning satisfied customers into great online reviews.
And the online reviews are so important for Google My Business, or Google Business Profile now. They have such a big impact in helping you show up in that map pack search result. So use email as one of those critical tools to help you get more reviews, and it's really important.
I thought it would be really interesting and helpful to our listeners if we could bring kind of this abstract discussion that we've been having into reality by sharing some real life success stories. We've already kind of sprinkled those throughout, but I thought it would be neat to do a round table. So we'll go around the circle and ask, what are some of the best ways or stories related to email marketing or tips that you've seen that have worked for your clients over the past year? And I'll start with Jen.
First of all, the tip, it's a little bit boring. It's being consistent for sure. Yeah, you got to be appear in that email inbox consistently, and consistently, whether it's the weekly, biweekly, every month, that kind of thing. I have noticed two different things, depending on your audience. Some of the very, very short, so a couple sentences, bullet points, that kind of thing, making the email very punchy and really easy to consume works well. Then, and we see this all the time in marketing, on the flip side as well, same with podcasts, same with blogging, the very long form content working. And oftentimes, if you are talking about a certain topic, having the, the backup and the extra content there to give the reader the comfort that, this person or this company knows what they're talking about, and you can go in depth with that. Don't be afraid to go that route if it's going to work for your customers. I guess the last point on that is that there are best practices out there, and it is important to understand what those are, and then obviously to stay legal with them, with the different email rules. But there's also best practices for your own audience, and there's only going to be a way that you figure out what works for your audience by testing that. And what I mean by that is, do you send your email newsletter Tuesday at 8:15 a.m.? Do you send it Sunday at 8 p.m.? Both of those, one of them, the Tuesday, would be probably a best practice. This sending a business email Sunday at 8 p.m., probably not a best practice. However, I do know of some companies and some individuals that do that Sunday mailing because it's shown to work for their audience. They get the great response. So my recommendation would be, make sure you're skating on the right side of the law when it comes to your email marketing, but don't be afraid to experiment. Is your audience, the early risers that are going to, consume and do the most activity in the morning? Is it midweek? Is it end of the week? Is it the weekend? Oh my goodness. So you do have some leeway to play with. And you want to get to the point where it's the best practice. You're doing the best for your audience. And you're only going to know that through experimentation.
That's awesome. Great points, Jen. And yeah, you just reinforced, how no matter what you're doing from a digital marketing standpoint, even if it's traditional marketing, somehow you need to measure. You need to be keeping your eyes on what's happening so that you can improve. Isn't it a Peter Drucker quote that says you can't improve what you don't measure? So we all need to measure things.
Is that attributed to him? I have never been able to figure out the source.
Somebody's attributed. Every source goes back to Einstein, right? So I'm sure it was Albert Einstein. Yeah, and then you find out it's not true. Paul, what about you? Do you have some stories or tips to share about how our listeners can be more effective in email marketing?
Well, I think we've touched on some of it throughout this podcast, but email marketing it's a bunch of things. It's awareness and informational, and yes, you can talk about products. Every once in a while you can have an offer, but it shouldn't always be about selling something. It should be about keeping your customers in mind, what's best for them. And when you're sending out email, you can have you can have an FAQ email about frequently asked questions. You can have a recommendation email based on their past behavior, things they've bought in the past. You can send out emails. Let's say we do this with painters, that they've done interior painting for someone, but they've never done exterior painting. So, and that's where your CRM and your automations and your tags come into place. But you can pull up a list, say, okay, we've done interior painting for all these people, but we've never done any exterior painting. So you send a targeted email about exterior painting and why that's important and how it protects the house and how it adds value and longevity to the exterior. So it's not always about selling. It's about awareness and customer engagement as much as anything.
Awesome. Ken, what about you? What have you seen that's been working well?
Well, I'm going to disagree with Paul just a little bit. I think sometimes it's all about selling. I mean, what does Amazon do? Every email you get from them is a suggested product, right? That, you
And they're all
trying
deleted.
to drive you, so it just really you've got to, I mean, in general, I agree with Paul, but if your focus is really selling products, and high transactional, e-commerce or commerce kinds of businesses, whether that's getting people to come into your store, whether it could be a restaurant, it could be retail, where you've got high transactional volumes, then maybe your sales or your email focus is a little bit more sales focused. If you're, a tech company and you sell something that is very expensive and you may take somebody 3 months, 6 months to make a decision, then you've got to focus your emails maybe to be more educational and informational, and work in a little bit of sales incentives, from time to time. So really, there's no single recipe that works. As Jen said, you've got to test this, you've got to see what works, you've got to pay attention. Consistency really is key. Um, like you mentioned, Ian, we've seen spikes with customers, in terms of new business coming in based on, a new email going out. So that can work really, really well. We also see that, a lot of people, when they go to your website, they're not ready to talk to you, but they're ready to learn from you. And so they'll raise their hand, they'll give you an email address, give me this valuable asset. And then, you continue to send them emails over time. It could be 2 weeks, as you talked about, Ian. It could be over 6 months. But the whole goal is to nurture them to the point where they're ready to become a customer, or at least take that next step. You just have to test it and think it through, and really align it with the way your customers are wanting to buy, and kind of align it as best you can with that customer journey. I think the key thing, though, is email works at every phase of the customer journey really, really well.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
That's a good point that Ken made. It really depends on your business. If you're a restaurant or you sell a product that people buy on a regular basis, then yes, your emails are probably going to be more transaction based. If it's a longer selling cycle or something that people buy infrequently, then I think a lot of your email efforts are going to be about staying top of mind.
Yeah, it's all about knowing your audience, right? And it's not about you, business owner, it's about your audience. Couple tips that came to mind for me: subject lines. Subject lines are paramount. If you don't get the subject, if you can't get somebody past the subject line, then and they won't go into the email, you haven't even gotten their attention. So subject lines are super important. I would say testing is vital. I even in the corporate world, where we had many people, managing many parts of our marketing puzzle. Testing is so vital. We've all gotten emails, and then an email shortly thereafter that says, "Oops, sorry." So test the links. Read the email, have an approval process within your business before sending it out, because nobody wants to have mud on their face. And then the last tip that came to mind too was related to hiring. We've talked about, selling and informing. Send out an email to your email list of customers, telling them that you're looking for new people, and explain who these rock stars are, so that you've just spread your net much further, because these people have friends, sons and daughters, husbands, wives, colleagues that may be good fits for your business. And it always helps to spread the word far and wide, especially in this day when, in a lot of businesses, it's hard to find good people quick. So
Yeah.
leverage your email list.
Yeah. But the key thing is, if you do screw up, it's not the end of the world. Don't try to do it all the
That's a good
time,
point.
obviously, and have fun with it. Like you said, oops, we messed up. It occasionally happens. It just shows the real side of your business and your personality. So have fun with it when it does happen. It will happen.
I've gotten the emails that say oops, and it's got like a Giphy doing a face slap, right?
Yeah.
Any last tips or anything you feel overwhelming reasons that you need to share with our listeners before we sign off today?
This is one of my favorite topics. I really think email is so underutilized. I get so frustrated that I can't get people to use email the way they can and should. You're leaving money on the table if you're not doing email marketing on a regular basis.
Put a system in place to collect email addresses. Build your list.
Yep. Perfect.
Automate.
Well, this is a good place to wrap up, guys. This has been fantastic. As we've heard a couple times now, this is Ken's favorite topic. So just all our listeners, just email Ken, email Ken a lot with questions you may have. But again, if you like this podcast, please share it with other business owners who could benefit from it, and have a great day. Bye for now.
Thank you.
See you.